Good evening, YouTube. Welcome to yet another spectacular star-filled edition of the Untitled Show about nerdy stuff.
Star-filled.
Well, you're a star. You know, you were in the production Alphabet Stew, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Am I lying? No. So yes, we are a star-studded show for you today because we have Tim back. Tim is back from Utah. He survived the Mormon onslaught, and he's going to tell us all about his adventures there. I heard that he literally cried when he finally got to meet Tom Wopat and John Schneider and Catherine Bach. But we're going to start out with a slightly delayed movie review because, and I do want to apologize if the sound is a little bit off. I have this incredibly beautiful microphone here that unfortunately Skype doesn't like, so we can't use it right now. So sorry about that. Anyway, we're going to talk, this is a 1 week delayed movie review. We wanted to talk about it last week. However, last week, Tim, was unavailable because those bastards at Wizard World decided to host Comic-Con that week. I mean, that was really rude of them. They should only do Comic-Cons on weeks when there are not movies coming out that we're going to review. But what can I say? And that movie is Don't Breathe. Much better than the original title of, Old Blind Man Kicks Ass. But so, Tim.
Yeah.
Tell me, what did you think of Don't Breathe?
I'm going to tell you, I loved it. I liked the fact that there were twists in it that I didn't necessarily see coming. I liked the fact that the focal point kept shifting as to who are you rooting for. And I think I think that the lead, what's his name? I'm sorry, Stephen
Lang, isn't it?
Stephen Lang, yeah. Stephen Lang was.
Just think Ant-Man.
Yeah. He was amazing in a role that was almost largely silent. Mm-hmm. He absolutely commands the screen when he's on there. You believe that he's blind because there's lots of little subtle things that he does where he's always touching the walls and stuff. So he knows where he's at in what part of the house. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was great. It didn't overstay its welcome. It wasn't even 90 minutes, I don't think.
No.
I recommend it.
What would you give it out of 10?
Out of 10, I'd give it a solid 8.
Okay. I really liked it. I can't quite say I loved it. There's one fatal flaw that I'll get into in a minute that just kind of bugged me a little bit.
It might be the one that I'm thinking of, but
I doubt it but we'll find out in a minute here. I do think Lang was incredible. This movie is a beautiful example of how to have a tension-based film. The thing about it is that they set it up to where, okay, this guy is a former badass. He's like ex-special forces and all that typical stuff you hear in the movies.
Right.
However, he's blind as a bat. And the way they portrayed him, they did a really good job at showing two things. A, he's a badass, and B, he is really blind. That is a real disability for him. So even though, like, through most of this film, he has a gun, he's not like being Kane from Kung Fu or something where he hears a sound and then he can shoot a fly off of your nose or something. No. Most of the time he misses because and he can't be 100% certain at what he's shooting at. Which is one big sequence in the film, of course, where he shoots someone that he did not intend to. And I like that because I like the fact that even though he's clearly got them outmatched as far as his hand-to-hand skills. His disability makes it so that you always believe that there's a chance these people could get out. Now, one thing I liked when you're talking about things that you weren't expecting, the one thing that they cleverly kept out of the trailers, at least the trailers that I saw for this film, was his dog.
Yes.
I did not realize that dog was the great equalizer for him because, for those who haven't seen it yet, he has a trained Rottweiler that is both his guide dog and his guard dog, and so I was thinking early on in the film that, okay, you got 3 people in this house with a blind dude. It would be pretty easy to, once all you got to do is be quiet enough to sneak around, get behind them or something, and whop them over the head or something. But with the dog changes that because it makes it impossible to sneak around if there's a dog that's charging at you, especially a very big, very mean-looking Rottweiler. And by the way, yes, Firefly, I do think Stephen Lang would be an awesome choice for Cable in the.
Oh, hell yeah.
In fact, I would. You know what I would love to see, and I know we won't, but if Marvel got the rights, I would love to see Stephen Lang as Reed Richards. I would love that because he's got the age, but he's got the ass kickery, and he's got the acting chops to pull it off, in my opinion. Or even if they were going to do a reboot of the Marvel Universe, he would make an awesome Nick Fury if they did a classic Nick Fury.
Oh, he'd be a great old school Fury, yeah.
Yeah. But I would love to see him play almost any of the older superhero characters that we see in the Marvel Universe. Mr. Fantastic, of course, being my personal favorite, which is why I would put him at the top of the list. But yeah, he is. The funny thing about Lang is that he's been in several very well-known films, obviously like Avatar as an example, and he's always just that guy you remember that stole every scene he was in. But he's never a leading guy, and I think I love it every time. If I see he's in a movie, I know that movie is going to be better because he's in it, and this is certainly no exception.
Well, I can tell you, the first time I saw him was in Manhunter. Mm-hmm. And he played Freddie Lowndes, the sleazy tabloid reporter in that. And if you look at that, you go, that's not the same guy. Right. They look so different. And he was also on Michael Mann's other show, Crime Story, and he was great on that too.
Yeah. And the thing is, he's a solid actor. That's the thing. Like, even though he kind of got his reputation, which really got going in with Avatar, as being an old man who looks like he has the body of a very young, athletic ass kicker. That's kind of his reputation, to say he's the old man that's going to kick your ass. And it's great because he does that very well, but his acting range is much, much bigger than that. And so, I could see him play. That's why I would say him for Reed Richards. Reed Richards is not an ass kicker kind of role, not in the same way as like one of his military type characters, but he's got the acting chops and the physical presence to be a older superhero. Now let's talk a little bit about the flaw here, at least to me. And I'll tell you that out of 10, I'd probably give it a 7, mainly for the incredible suspense that we see in this film.
Yeah.
Every time when he's walking around with that gun, and you just don't know what's going to happen, and it is awesome. However, my problem with it is actually something you kind of pointed to slightly when you were talking about a minute ago, and that's that there's no moral good person in this film. The one character that ends up surviving, which is so predictable, unfortunately.
Well, yeah.
The one character is, her morality is, okay. They try to make it, it's a criminal with a noble purpose, right? She's stealing money from all these people so that she can rescue her sister from an abusive household. And if we can just make the big score, we can get out of the crime thing. And that's the most noble person in the film. There's no one who is basically a straight up good person, including Stephen Lang, who I'm not going to spoil the skeletons in his closet, so to speak, but there is a scene in this film, and this is again a testament to the filmmakers here, where just what they imply that he is about to do to one of these people was so sickening and so wrenching, and yet they didn't show you a thing.
No.
The
director, I believe I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Is it Fade or Fada?
I'm not.
Fede Alvarez. He directed the reboot of Evil Dead, which I absolutely loved. I was shocked at how much I enjoyed it. And with this one, I think he's really a new face to look for with horror films in the future.
Absolutely. But did you think the moral compass of the film was a little off, like I did, or did you not?
No, it didn't really bother me, because I actually liked the fact that, like I was saying earlier, your focus kind of shifts back and forth. You're kind of like, she needs to help her little sister, and they're going to get out, but then you're like, oh man, they're really going to screw over this blind guy because this is money from his daughter's death and blah blah blah. But then you're like, oh wait, holy crap, he's this, and then,
But it just ends up becoming, this person was worse than this person, so it's okay that this person kills this person or what. And I would have preferred if the hero of the film was a little more hero. If she had gotten literally dragged into it instead of, basically trying to be like, one of the people that was breaking into the house was very much opposed to the whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
And if that was her, I would have been better with it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what my one issue is, and it's a minor point that, I mean, if you just ignore it, then you enjoy the movie a lot more. But it was brought up to me, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, you're right. It's like, how in the heck did the blind guy get... God, how can I say this without ruining it? How did he get his guest into the house? And how did that happen?
Set up that whole thing?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, that makes no sense. And I'll tell you that there was one other thing that kind of bugged me, but I let it go because it's Hollywood, was that, now you see, and it's in the trailer, so it's not really a spoil. One of the thugs has a gun that the blind guy very quickly wrestles away from him. And apparently that gun has about 49 rounds in it. Because he walks around that house quite a bit shooting at people, and then finally, and we're talking about like a good maybe hour of this film that he's running around with this gun and shooting at people.
Yeah.
Then he runs out of ammunition and goes, "Oh, I better go get my gun now." And it's like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, if you think about it too hard, then you start thinking about that kind of stuff. And
right. Well, and here to me is the biggest character flaw, I think, in the writing. They made a big point in, and I love the establishing shot, where they show the camera panning under his bed and up to reveal him, which is a really well done shot. And while the camera's under the bed, you see that he keeps a revolver strapped to the bottom of his bed. And this is not a major spoiler. This is right at the beginning of the film. So that makes sense, right? Because this guy is ex-military, special forces, and living in a very bad neighborhood. And so it would make perfect sense that he would keep a gun right where he could reach it at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
However, then people break into his house, start rummaging around, and he doesn't grab the gun.
It's
like, What? I mean, really? You're going to get out of bed. There's burglars downstairs. You're going to get out of bed. You have a gun, a loaded revolver right there, and you're going to say, I'll come back for it if I need it, which is literally what he ends up doing, you know?
Yeah.
So I that was kind of silly to me, but though that's nitpicking it really, because the point of this film is really the suspense, which is done flawlessly from beginning to end. You either think that this poor old guy is just such a, poor, how is he going to get out of this situation with these kids? Or you're thinking, how the hell are these kids going to get out of the situation with this monster that just happens to be blind?
Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend the film for anybody that likes a good suspense, a thrill ride of a suspense film.
Absolutely.
So, Tim.
Yeah.
I know we don't have a lot to talk about this week, but you had quite an adventure. So tell me, all about meeting the Dukes of Hazzard.
No, I did not meet them. God. Although I did see the General Lee, and I sent a picture to James because I knew that he would appreciate it. I know Jim would appreciate it. I see him smiling there.
Oh yeah, Jim. He thinks that the Dukes of Hazzard is one of the finest television series ever. Makes Jessica Jones look like absolute crap.
Well, my friend Trisha had texted me and said, "Oh, I got you tickets to Comic-Con." I was like, "What?" Oh, okay, that's cool. So, I gotta tell you,
you should marry her, right?
What's that?
You should marry her, right? A woman gets you tickets to Comic-Con. That should be it right there.
That's the deciding factor.
Okay. Trisha's probably watching this right now, going, "No!"
So I got to tell you, they put on one hell of a show. It was pretty crowded. It wasn't quite the San Diego level of attendance, although Saturday was pretty busy, but it was up there, and they had some really good celebrities. I was at the Arthur Darvill panel,
which we'll have an exclusive video up on the channel soon, so keep an eye out for that.
As soon as James gets that worked out.
And by the way, this video shows exactly why Arthur Darvill is in the role that he is right now at Legends of Tomorrow, because of his in-depth knowledge of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Yeah, for those of you who didn't know, I was dressed as the 6th Doctor, Colin Baker, and apparently Arthur Darvill had no idea who I was supposed to be, even though it's an exact replica of the outfit.
Yeah, and he appeared on Doctor Who, for those of you that don't know that.
It's from Doctor Who. And the Michael Rooker Q&A was amazing.
I've heard Rooker is incredible at these things.
Oh, he's hysterical. He came into the Comic-Con building on his motorcycle. The security was freaking out as he's like, "Yeah!"
So he rode a motorcycle into the convention?
Yes.
Awesome.
And he spent the beginning part of his little Q&A going through his backpack, looking at different weird crap and pulling it out like, "Oh, I've got aspirin. I've got drugs in this bottle. It's unmarked."
Tell people about his impromptu phone call that he made.
Well, initially he got a question from someone asking if Yondu was going to join the Guardians of the Galaxy because he's a part of them in the comics. So he decided, I'll call James Gunn and ask him. And he got his voicemail. So then he chose to call Chris Pratt and put it on speakerphone and put the mic up to it so we could all hear Chris Pratt. And I think he woke him up. But Pratt was hilarious. They had a great back and forth, and it was pretty cool that Pratt, was cool enough to go along with it, because he was on the phone with him for like 10 minutes. And listening.
That's actually quite a while, considering.
Yeah.
He's not getting paid for it.
Yeah, and the audience was going nuts and everything, and Rooker spent the entire time running around the audience with his microphone, much to the chagrin of the Comic-Con people, I'm sure, and his security.
But that's the thing, though, is that he and Rooker was at Nashville's Comic-Con last year. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see him, but I'm hoping that he comes back for next year's.
Yeah.
He embodies what's good about the current generation of a lot of actors, is that we're seeing more actors these days like him, like Chris Pratt, even Carl Urban, Mark Ruffalo, actors without egos.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love a guy that's just willing to hang out with the fans, have a great time, undignify themselves a little bit for the sake of just getting a good laugh with a crowd. I think about when, I can't believe Hiddleston, when Tom Hiddleston showed up at San Diego Comic-Con in full Loki,
yes.
costume and stuff, and was demanding that the crowd kneel before him.
Yes.
How awesome is that?
Yeah, you really got the impression that Rooker, kind of like with Peter Capaldi when he meets fans. I mean, he gets it, and he has fun with the fans. Also, Danny Trejo, we saw him, and it's so amazing how he is 100% different than his on-screen persona.
Well, yeah, he's a really sweet guy.
he's an incredibly sweet guy, and the kids love him. There were little kids going absolutely bonkers. This one little kid, he must have been like 5 or 6 years old, came up to him to get a picture with him, and he was dressed as Baby Machete. He had like the tattoo of the senorita on the chest and the little, and he had the wig and everything with like fake little like machetes and everything. I was like, these parents are raising this child right. and he was hysterical. He saw my outfit. He's like, "What the hell are you supposed to be?" And I got a picture with him, and he's a real sweetheart, really a nice guy. The people, I got to tell you, the people there who ran it did a fantastic job. And that they really do have a difficult job because they've got celebrities they have to deal with. And, and let's be honest, not all celebrities are fun to deal with.
Right.
And then you've got fans who are going to be a huge pain in the ass because they like, look at me, trying to get to them. And everybody there at the convention center was fantastic, and they run a great show. I had a hard time because of my back, and I had to go back to the hotel several times because I just couldn't stand any longer. Plus, I was sweating like a pig in that outfit. I mean, it's like 3 layers in a wig. 91-degree temperatures. So
Tim, now you're coming out to Nashville next fall for the Nashville Wizard World Comic-Con.
Sure.
And so, what's your cosplay going to be?
Well, in keeping with my current tradition, going backwards with the Doctors, I will be the 5th Doctor next year. Okay. So I will be wearing a stalk of celery on my cricket uniform.
Did he? I didn't know that this.
He always had. He had like a piece of celery, pinned to his lapel.
That's interesting.
It all goes to like this. Doctor Who is one of the most British shows ever.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm thinking people who don't know, they're like, "Why is he flying in a telephone booth?" And of course, then I have
telephone booth.
Yeah, and I have to, well, actually,
It's actually a police call box that police used in the 1950s and 60s, and it's actually a TARDIS, which stands for time and relative dimension in space. And it's like, and then the part I'm leaving out of that impression is where I get beat up severely.
Right. And then that'll happen right after the show.
But yeah, I mean, you have to explain stuff like why his spaceship / time machine is this blue police call box, right, and why the Daleks have like an egg beater and a plunger, and
that's a paint roller. Actually, I looked at
a paint roller, yeah. And, and it's just like, yeah, because in the 60s BBC had no money, and
well, the funny thing is that the Daleks, in particular, because the Daleks are considered like one of the most formidable enemies of all life in the universe in Doctor Who.
Basically, other than the Master, they're the ultimate opponent for him.
Right, right. But the funny thing is that the Daleks, to this day, have that same design with a paint roller and a plunger for their hands.
Yeah,
and which I just find hilarious, but it works. They're very iconic, actually, and I actually really like the Daleks. I think they're a cool villain, even though. Yeah. And my favorite thing about the Daleks is that you see these modern episodes where the Daleks are flying around and zapping people and disintegrating whole races,
flying through the air. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you go back to their first appearance with the first Dalek, the way that the first Doctor defeated the Daleks was literally to tip them over, because the floor was electrified, and that's how they powered their systems, and so they just tipped them over, and then they won.
Yeah, it took about 3 decades before they were able, or 4 or whatever, before they were actually able to levitate, because it was like the biggest enemy of the Daleks, stairs.
Yes. And I remember I think it was in series 1 of the reboot.
Yeah.
When they had the lone Dalek, and that was actually a really good episode. The episode just called Dalek.
Yeah.
Where it was like kind of a tragic story, where Rose confronted the Dalek and kind of, connected with it emotionally a little bit. But when
showed it mercy.
Yeah, when the Dalek started rampaging, one of the guys ran up some stairs and and then that's when we see the Dalek for the first time start to levitate.
Yeah.
And he's like,
crap.
But yes, I do love me the Daleks. They're awesome. I would love to build a Dalek for cosplay. That would be fun.
Oh, there was a Dalek going around the Comic-Con floor.
Mm-hmm.
It was great because the head swiveled, and the lights on it, it would talk. It would exterminate or whatever, and the lights would go and it was fun. Unfortunately, by the day that the Dalek showed up was the day I wasn't in costume.
Oh, too bad. Yeah, that would have been good to get you a picture with him.
I know. Oh well.
I would love to have a full Dalek get up as a cosplay when someone like Arthur Darvill was there, or one of the doctors or something, and then get up to the microphone and say, would you like to come back with me? I would love to serve you dinner.
You are an enemy of the Daleks. Yeah, quite possibly the most annoying sounding villains ever.
They basically sound like young people in that with special needs and haven't been don't have a proper training or anything. I mean, it's just like it's so funny when they're like they really do act like children.
Yeah.
Just militant children, I guess. That's what the Daleks are. They represent the militant children.
Order will be exterminated!
So now, of course, like I said, next year we've got Wizard World in Nashville. It's going to be a very different experience for you if it's anything like last year's Nashville Wizard World. The crowds are not that big. Which is nice because except for whoever the headliner is, you can actually spend some time talking to most of the celebs that are there. And so I had a lot of fun last year talking at great lengths with LeVar Burton and a few of the people from Battlestar Galactica and stuff. So I'm hoping that next year we get to do something like that.
Yeah, we also had Shatner and Mark Hamill, but I wasn't about to go near those lines.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you buy the VIP pass, and that's what I would do if, like, I did that for Shatner, but you know me and William Shatner. How could I not?
Well, yeah. Did you hump his leg?
I did, in fact. And
oh God, Mr. Shatner. Ah.
Yeah, somewhere right here. I think I have the restraining order still. But yeah, so someone like a Shatner or Mark Hamill is going to get crowds no matter where they go. But the nice thing about like last year's Nashville is that Shatner drew such a crowd that even though they had a lot of really cool people there other than Shatner, you could just walk up and talk to him because nobody cared.
Yeah.
So, and I know Michael Trio is like, or Danny Trio is constantly doing these Wizard World events. So I'm hoping that he shows up. That would be fun. I know he was at that one, but I didn't get a chance. I think the biggest Comic-Con horror on the planet, though, is Lou Ferrigno. I think he shows up.
He was there.
That's all he does. I think, he does that and cameos in Marvel movies. That's pretty much his career now.
Yeah, yeah, he was there. Robert Englund was there, who's awesome. I didn't get in his line because I've already met him, so I was like, I could spend that time better, like getting in a different line or whatever. But yeah, who was there? Who just must be in her 60s, and is just still stunning as ever is Aaron Gray.
Oh, really?
From Buck Rogers.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Silver
about.
Spoons. Yeah. I mean, what a looker! Just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
I wasn't a huge Silver Spoons fan, but I did like Buck Rogers.
Well, I was, but I'm sure it sucked in reality. I mean, I haven't seen it in years.
Although I gotta say, Princess Ardala was way hotter than Wilma Deering. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's just my. What can I say? Well, actually.
Oh yeah.
Although Wilma Deering is where I first learned about the camel toe. So, and for those of you that think I'm just being rude and crude, watch that show.
Holy shit. Okay. Oh my God.
So overall, sounds like you had a blast.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'd like to, be able to do it when I'm feeling better, but
Well, hopefully you'll be feeling better by next September.
Well, I'm hoping I'll be feeling better by December of this year, because I'm just waiting on the surgery here. So
Well, I'll
number
just be happy.
3.
As far as I'm concerned, you can be in pain as long as you're feeling better by next September.
Yeah.
I don't really care about anything up until then.
You've got priorities, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Next September is when you have to be feeling good, so that when you come in,
Okay.
because we got to come up with some kind of group cosplay. Maybe we should have our audience decide what we'll all dress up as a group. It has to be something that Tim, me, and James can all participate in. Not sure. Like if we were to try and do a Doctor Who theme thing, who would James be?
That's a good one. I'll have to think on that.
Yeah, I was thinking I would love to do the Fourth Doctor. Possibly, well, if I lose enough weight, possibly the Third Doctor. And-
Pertwee.
Yeah, I like Pertwee, and everybody loves the Fourth Doctor. The problem with you go to one of these Wizard Worlds and there's like 800 Fourth Doctors, there.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was at this one, I got asked for pictures constantly because there was no Sixth Doctor there.
Right.
I really stood out. There was like probably 5 10th Doctors, including one guy. I mean, this guy, you would almost say, I bet you he's like the stunt double for Tennant. I mean,
Yeah.
he looked so much like him, and even like down to the hair and the glasses and everything.
Well, I think
But,
like my son would probably want to dress up as like either the 10th or 11th. But which I could see, which could be fun. Like if you were, you were one of the doctors, I could be one of the doctors, Joshua could be one of the doctors, but James doesn't seem like one of the doctors to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Did you see what Firefly said?
I don't know. Oh, James could be the TARDIS. That could actually work.
Oh, God. That's so mean. Oh, jeez.
Well, and then oh, okay. So James wants to be that thing. Yeah, I can't remember what that's called, but it's in the chat. So you should put that.
Oh, God, that's well known as one of the worst episodes ever.
Yeah, I remember. I saw that one not too long ago. It was pretty bad. James, why don't you put that up on the screen for us so we can show everybody this is the Doctor Who character that James wants to be.
Well, he could also be the human Dalek hybrid. Have you seen that yet?
The human Dalek hybrid?
Yeah.
Because
I think you have, since you've gotten through all the tenets, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember though. There's been much.
His name's Dalek Sec.
Oh,
the leader of the cult of Skaro.
Mm-hmm.
He could do that.
He could, but I think that one that he's got up there, I think that's a good fit for him.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we could actually come up with that costume?
Jeez. That was such an awful episode.
Yeah, that one really was. It had such a creepy ending.
It was just, if he really wanted to, he could just like wear a suit and put on a gas mask and just ask people like, "Are you my mummy?"
Yeah, James could do that.
But yeah, I'm all for like Doctor Who team cosplay there.
So yeah, we got to come up with something. Then we have between now, we have 1 year from today.
I don't know if that's enough time.
I think that is. I think we have almost exactly 1 year, if I remember correctly.
Firefly wants to know, what about a Cyberman?
For James?
Yeah.
Who's going to make that costume?
Oh.
Well. Yeah. Wizard World National Comic Con starts in, you ready for this? 365 days, 17 hours, 39 minutes, and 11 seconds. So it is September 8th, 9th, and 10th. And so, unfortunately, they haven't really booked anybody major yet. They've gotten a couple of artists, and Dom Toretto's 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner from Furious 7.
Okay.
They booked the car. But yeah, so we got to find out. So people, we need ideas for James to have a Doctor Who themed costume. Yeah, that could be awesome. Or it could be stupid. But you know what?
It could be both.
Yes. But something else that's awesome and yet stupid. We do a video pick every week for some strange reason.
Yeah, James doesn't get it.
Yeah, I know. And so what is your video pick this week, Tim?
Well, mine's actually a twofer. Mainly because I got them in the same Amazon order. And they're from the same company. I've become a fan of these Mexican horror films that they did in the early 60s. They're black and white, and they really have kind of a look and feel of a 1930s, 1940s Universal horror, with a little bit of kind of like the, a little more violent, stuff from Hammer. And I got The Curse of the Crying Woman and The Black Pit of Dr. M, which both have a really fantastic black and white photography in them, and they're very creepy and they're well done, and they're not like the cheesy Mexican wrestler versus the Aztec mummy kind of thing. They're actually pretty good, and And actually, Firefly was asking about the Booster Gold news we were going to discuss.
Oh, yeah, gosh, I'm sorry. We'll do that in just a second. We'll go ahead and finish what you're doing, and then we'll talk about Booster Gold. Then I'll do mine.
These are both put out by Casa Negra, and they're a really great company. They restored these. They look great. They got both the English dubbing and the original Spanish track and subtitles. So they're both worth tracking down.
Cool. And so, on that happy note, tell us about Booster Gold.
Okay. Okay, so the execs at DC came out with the fact they're working on a Booster Gold movie, but it's going to be unrelated to the rest of the DC universe, which puzzles me. Because don't you want to connect them? And I thought their whole purpose was to try and emulate Marvel and get that expanded universe thing, especially Justice League, because, you know, if you know Booster Gold, you know he's a member of the Justice League, or he has been since the early mid-'80s.
Right.
And, you know, yeah, if you know his shtick, he's actually a superhero from the future who comes back in time, and he's kind of like a hero for hire. You know, he'll do whatever heroic mission you want as long as you pay him. You know, it has potential to be a fun film, and I'm kind of torn on one hand, I would think you'd want it to be a part of the Marvel universe or the DC universe, right? I mean, the whole point is to interconnect these things so you can, you know, have the characters meet and blah blah blah. On the other hand, I think what the DC's been doing has been such garbage for the most part that maybe it's a good thing to keep it separate.
Well, I would say this on the Booster Gold front is that, first of all, am I excited for a Booster Gold movie? Not at all. Booster Gold is a character that I really don't give a crap about. You know, I know they attempted to do him on one of the shows. I can't remember which one.
Smallville?
Yeah, I think they tried to do him on Smallville at some point, and it was an utter failure there. He's just not an interesting character. He's basically just a dick with a super suit.
If they teamed him with Blue Beetle and made it funny, like those comics in the 80s, the J.M. DeMatteis and Keith Giffen Justice League, that would be fun, because then it might be something along the lines of like Deadpool, where it's, you know, a comic.
If they took it to the extreme, yes. Yeah,
superheroes being shticky and kind of funny and accidentally saving everybody. I think that'd be funny.
And I could see that, but, you know, and as far as it being part of the DCU, that if they did it, if they played it for laughs, it absolutely would not work with the DCU, because the DCU.
Well, yeah, it's at odds with that.
Yeah, but and if they try to take him seriously the way that he would be in the DCU, I don't think that that's a very interesting story. Honestly, I think that the DCU is just we're going to see we could literally see this destroy Warner Brothers, I think.
Well, if they go into it with like $200 million budget for Booster Gold.
Right.
God.
Yeah, the kids will love it, you know.
All the kids love this character they've never heard of.
Yeah. I think that, I just can't get excited about the character. I don't care about it being involved in the DCU, because quite frankly, he's not interesting to me either way. Now, I wouldn't mind seeing Blue Beetle in the DCU. He could be their version of Spider-Man, basically, which is kind of what Blue Beetle is.
Even though Blue Beetle came before Spider-Man.
Right. I'm just saying, you know, the more modern incarnation of Blue Beetle, he was done very much like Spider-Man. And actually, you can tell even in some of the older Blue Beetles, like I have Blue Beetle #1, and he was very much like Spider-Man in that. You know, wisecracking as he punches people out. The only difference is he didn't really have superpowers at that point. He was actually like a comedic version of Owlman from The Watchmen.
Kind of, yeah. Well, the Watchmen characters were based on the Charlton Comics superheroes, so that's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, the Owl was just a very serious version of him.
like like the what's it, Rorschach is basically the question.
Right. And by the way, if they did something like that, boy, that could be awesome. To do Blue Beetle and the Question or something, that could actually be interesting.
I'd love it.
But Booster Gold, don't care. Really, just don't care.
Yeah, it does seem like an odd choice, especially when there's so many other DC characters that are so much more interesting.
Right. Well, that's the thing is that DC has got some of the most iconic characters in the history of comics, and they're going to go with Booster Gold. Really?
Yeah.
You're seriously going to go with Booster Gold?
Yeah. I mean, I really, the more I think about it, the idea of a Question movie, I think, would be fantastic because you could really, it doesn't have to be all superhero-y. You could really go like in a film noir direction with it.
Right.
He's very much a street level character, almost like he would almost, even though he's a different company, he would almost fit in with like Daredevil and stuff.
Right, and that's the thing is that if you start looking, because one thing that Marvel has done well, and I know we keep comparing Marvel to DC, but you kind of got to, is the fact that Marvel doesn't try to make all their movies the same. Their movies each movie is like each franchise, you should say, is like in a different genre. You have Thor that's fantasy. You have Ant-Man that was like a heist film. The Avengers, balls to the wall action film. And then you have things like the Daredevil Netflix stuff, which is the dirty gritty stuff.
And then Doctor Strange is going to be like mysticism and
horror, basically,
supernatural, and
And so they're not afraid to like experiment and move out into different genres, and I think DC should do the same thing. If you look at some of the mystical characters in DC, have you Dr. Fate, the Spectre? There's a lot of these characters.
Phantom Stranger.
Yeah, Phantom Stranger would make an awesome movie.
The Demon.
Dead Man, even.
Dead Man.
But you look at some of these characters and they'd be interesting. And before you start grabbing Guillermo del Toro and trying to do Dark Justice League, how about you start doing some solo films with these interesting characters and see what works?
Yeah, they started talking about Justice League Dark again, and the problem with that is you're talking about characters that have really, really detailed, rich back histories, backstories, and just throwing them into a movie without establish anything beforehand seems foolhardy, but I mean, maybe they can pull it off. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to see it because I love the characters. But and if they do John Constantine, please get Matt Ryan to do it. He's just so great. He was so great on Constantine. Speaking of Constantine,
they're not going to do that.
No, I know. One of the things at the con, there was a guy dressed as John Constantine. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he was absolutely perfect. And every time somebody would stop him to ask for a picture, he would do the same thing. He'd pull out a cigarette and and light it. Mm-hmm. That would be the picture.
That's actually cool. I like that.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He had it just absolutely down.
So, yeah, I think we would both basically agree then that as far as Booster Gold, don't care.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we'll see it, but you have a video pick?
Yes, and ironically, much like yours, it's also a twofer, although I only have one of them with me, but you'll know what the other one is. Good. And that twofer is the best franchise that Fox ever did. Yes, it is. It actually is.
Okay.
And that is Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, most people hate these movies. I know you hate these movies.
Yeah, they suck.
All right. Why in the world would I be picking Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer as my recommended video? Well, that's actually because I rewatched them just the other day with my wife, and we watched them with riff tracks.
Oh,
And for those of you that don't know, and this is going to be the other part of my little thing here, is that RiffTrax has an app now, and with the RiffTrax app, you can download the jokes for a movie so that they do movies that are not just little independent weird movies, but like, for example, Twilight, Jurassic Park featuring Weird Al Yankovic, The Dark Knight, the entire Star Wars saga, the entire Harry Potter saga, etc. And so you download the jokes to your Apple or Android device, in this case an iPad, and then you simply hit sync on there, and when you play the movie, it listens for the dialogue, and when it hears the dialogue, it automatically syncs the jokes to the movie. And it works really, really well. And so we've watched several movies that way. I'll tell you, the movies that I've actually watched that way are Triple X, The Room, Predator, Highlander, which Highlander was hilarious, and then Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, which were actually the funniest so far, and that's why I'm recommending those two films. If you have Fantastic Four and or Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer already, then by all means get the RiffTrax, and you will definitely enjoy many, many jokes about why the
Somehow
silver.
I doubt they'll have them.
Yeah. It's actually, like how they get on Mystery Science Theater and RiffTrax, where they'll get one thing that they just keep hitting over and over and over.
Oh yeah, they hammer it.
Right. Every single shot in Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, where the surfer is coming up in the shot, they say, "Oh, the surfer is rising," and it just becomes hilarious by the end of the film because you realize how many shots there are when he's rising in the shot.
Yeah.
If you haven't done the RiffTrax thing, you absolutely have to. It is so fun. And even movies that you may enjoy. Like, I liked the Highlander film, as silly as it is.
Well, the first one's okay, but after that,
and I love when Sean Connery first comes into the Highlander film on the horse. He's riding a horse and he goes, "I am Antonio Ramirez," and then Mike Nelson just goes, "No, you're not."
the world's first Scottish Spaniard.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. Predator, which we actually watched earlier today. Predator, on the RiffTrax. It's funny because I love the movie. You've seen Predator. You like Predator, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. It's a fun movie. It's a great movie. It's not a really deep movie, but it's a brilliant concept and very well done. But one thing I never noticed until I watched the RiffTrax of it is how much of this movie has no dialogue. And so there are scenes, and it's so funny, where they're like absolutely perfect, where they're like walking around the jungle and one guy looks at the other and stuff, and then you hear Mike Nelson going like, "So, want some dialogue?" Nah, never mind. We don't need dialogue. And they're going on for like 4 or 5 minutes of this film with not a word being said. And they were just like, "Yeah, so now we know that you can replace any mundane task you do with dun 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 dun," because that's all that the movie is.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. You got to check out RiffTrax. Get the app. Start watching your favorite films with Mike Nelson and the guys. It's a lot of fun. And with that being said, so we do need your help. We got to come up with our cosplay. We only have a year, and hopefully we'll come up with something really, really awesome, because that's what we do. We're awesome. And this has been the Untitled Show About Nerdy Stuff, where we are nerds without titles. And James isn't here, but he will be a monster apparently with many heads on his belly, because that's how he rolls.